Howdy everybody, David here. This is a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition review on the Princes of Apocalypse campaign setting. Now, when the Hoard of the Dragon Queen came out and the Rise of Tiamat came out, I did those reviews quite quickly. And as I ran those adventures, those campaign settings with the players, I was heavily disappointed on the amount of errors. I'm not worried about the grammatical errors, the misspelled errors, but the actual content errors of a module. I wish I would have really held off on my reviews, and that's why I've basically held off 3 or 4 months with the Princes of the Apocalypse. Now, because, to go back to the Hoard of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat, there were a lot of errors, and it would have definitely changed my outlook on those two, on the Tyranny of Dragons, campaign setting. So that's, like I said, that's why I've pretty much held off on Princes of Apocalypse. So, I've had quite a few months now to digest the Princes of Apocalypse, read it through. My players are now playing through this, and unfortunately, guys, the book is really nice. I mean, it is hardback. It's 250 pages. It's by Sasquatch Games. They've done some pretty good things in the past. I know Keith Baker, he's the lead. Greenwood worked on this. There's some pretty big names that worked on Princes of the Apocalypse. Now, the concept was good. Taken from the old Elemental Evil. Put it in the 5th edition setting. I get it. Sword Coast, I get it. But as I've pretty much read this, dissected it, this is pretty much what has happened with Hoard of the Dragon Queen and the Rise of Tiamat. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not bashing Princes of the Apocalypse. But when you invest into a company to produce a product for you, it should be right. And, like I said, let alone the grammatical issues, the misspells, I'm not worried about that. I'm talking about major issues as like locations not lining up right. For instance, the Desserin Valley map is a hex map, 10 miles per hex. There's nowhere anywhere it should be even close to that. It should be 4 to 5 because it's not matching up with the Red Larch surroundings map, which is a vital map that you're going to use all the time. Also, each one of those grids are 2 miles. It shouldn't be 2 miles. It should be about a mile. I don't know if it was miscommunication between the cartographer Michael Schley and Sasquatch Games, but when you have things like that and you have players asking you, well, this doesn't make sense from a time standpoint, as in descriptions, just a few miles from Red Larch, a few miles from the Stone Bridge, a few miles here, and it's 30-40 miles difference. That's in a setting like that. That's much more than just a few minutes travel from Red Larch or just a few miles from Red Larch. So I'm not going to go into specific examples, but if you guys have already done Princes of the Apocalypse, you guys are going to know as well what I'm talking about. Also, there is a part of, the big thing is, in chapter 3, you're trying to find the missing delegation, and you're trying to put all of the clues together. Great concept. I love that. It created a lot of role play for the characters. But if you really pay attention to it, the delegation was supposedly last saw at the Stone Bridge. Although the Stone Bridge, which is on the Red Larch surroundings map, it is pretty much directly at the top of the map almost. They were last seen in Belliard, which is to the east. So why does the adventure say that the last place they were seen was at the bridge? So it's contradicting itself, and basically what they did, the delegation traveled back west, but they were traveling to Summit Hall, which is basically to the southeast. So there's a lot of errors that just really, guys, should not make sense, and it causes a lot of extra work for the Dungeon Master. And when you spend $50 on a product like this, it should be tip-top. I mean, there should really be no issues like that. Maps should line up, grids should line up. You know, the mileage should be accurate between different size maps of smaller locations of a bigger map, meaning the Red Larch surroundings within the Destern Valley. You know, the Bel-Air, just to name a few. I mean, I'm not going to get into a lot more, and this isn't a review on Bash Princes of Apocalypse, because there is a lot of good in this also. Now, what I did like about Princes of Apocalypse is it gave you a levels 1 through 3 head start. You know, even though the core adventure, Princes of Apocalypse, when you start looking for the delegates and whatnot, it starts at level 3. Now, there's a lot of odd jobs around Red Larch, with sort of like a finale, the Tomb of Moving Stones, which that didn't really line up to the map as well with the locations and the exits. No problem, minor stuff, but still, it really shouldn't happen. Because, like I said, it causes extra work for the Dungeon Master. When, you know, if you're pressed for time, you're probably buying this product anyway. And when you're buying this product and you don't have the time, you want it to be right, because if you're going back and having to redo this, then you should just be writing your own content yourself. So, but anyways, to get back to what I was saying, I did like the level 1 through 3, you know, sort of like pre-adventure to get new players acclimated with a character up to level 3, instead of just handing them level 3 characters and say, here, learn your class. I did not like how they recommended playing the box set before this, because the box set would have taken you to at least 5 or 6. And then the Dungeon Master would have really been in a mess, having to convert all of the challenge ratings to deal with that mess from the Dungeon Master's Guide on converting creatures up to a level to where it would be feasible for level 5 and 6 characters just starting looking for the delegates. So I don't think they should have really advertised starting the box set. But I mean, you could do it. It would have just been a lot more extra work on the Dungeon Master. You know, but the Red Larch concept was really good. Now, also, the monster section was really nice. The magic items section was nice, although there were quite a few creatures that probably had lower damage than what they should have compared to what their challenge rating would be. Especially in the challenge rating 3 to 4 area, there was a lot of damage that was probably down into the challenge rating 1 too. But, you know, I did like the way that it was set up. I like how it was not a downloadable PDF like the Tyranny of Dragons. But then again, you know, you got the Genasi and the spells, but now there's a companion, and all of the companion is not in here. So now, in the print, they leave out the Aarakocra, the Goliath, but you know, so it's like they did a lot of good by getting everything back into the book, but then they left out other components that you can download online, which maybe some people don't have internet. You know, maybe some people will never know that the Goliath exists. Maybe some people will never know that the Aarakocra exists, but they do. Chances are very slim, but it's possible. So, you know, when you have a companion like that come out for free, it should be in the book. Another issue that I've actually had, not only with Princes of Apocalypse, but is with the Tyranny of Dragons as well. And that is basically no PDFs. I would love to be able to buy a book and PDF combination. I play a lot of my games online, you know, so a PDF would be really nice for me. I love the book, so I can play around the table as well. But there is also a lack of maps in D&D 5e. And what I mean by a lack of maps, there's not a lack of maps per se, but player maps. You know, what could happen would be this. How about, like in the Dungeon Master's Guide, the last 8 or 10 pages or so were player maps of all kinds of different caves, dungeons, and whatnot. That was a great idea for the Dungeon Master's Guide. I loved that. You could scan those, and then you could put them onto your virtual tabletop. You could print them out. But now, not only with Tyranny of Dragons and Rise of Tiamat, and now with Princes of Apocalypse, you have to go to a website you have to go to either Schley or McDonald's website and spend another $45 for maps on top of the $50 that you spend on the book. So now you're in $95 to play the Princes of Apocalypse. Granted, yes, that's buying them from a game store for $50 for the book, and you can get Princes of Apocalypse. You could have pre-ordered it for like $30. I think it's about $35 now on Amazon. But the people that go to the game stores, and then if you want to print your players' maps, you got to buy them from Michael Schley and McDonald. You know, granted, yes, there's DM maps in here, which is wonderful, and I love where they're at in the books, corresponding with the part of the adventure that they're in. But how about designating the last 10 pages of this this campaign setting book? How about give us the player maps printed, on paper in here? I don't care about the fold-out maps. I already get it. You're not going to be doing any fold-out maps anymore. We've already seen that from the box set, Tyranny of Dragons, and and now this. But how about you put them in print like you did the Dungeon Master's Guide, so that way, you're not pigeonholing us to spend an extra $45, $50 on maps from the artist's website. So that's a little frustrating as well. But like I said, the Princes of Apocalypse is definitely, you're going to have to adjust some things because you're going to find some errors on maps with locations and whatnot, but it's definitely still a good adventure, not taking anything away from the adventure. But the major issues, these things need to probably be proofread a little bit more. But other than that, that's pretty much my my review. There's the book is good quality. My book is starting to break a little bit, like my Player's Handbook and my Dungeon Master's Guide, in spots, where the pages are glued together, or it's starting to break. So I expect this book to probably fall apart later, like my other books. And I hate to say that, guys. And like I said, guys, I love Wizards of the Coast. I've been playing D&D since 1984, and I want nothing but D&D to be successful. I want Wizards of the Coast to be successful. And this is not a bash. And none of my videos I've bashed anything. But this I'm being critical in this because I've actually had this adventure for 4 months now, and I've had a good amount of time to go over all of this, read everything several times, and there are a lot of major issues. And I only touched on 3 or 4. You can even go into the Wizards of the Coast website and look at a massive list of things. So, guys, I would definitely, I would think about picking up Princes of the Apocalypse. I really honestly, I don't think the $50 price point is a valid price point. I think it's overshooting it. Granted, yes, I know there's big names producing this stuff, but especially when you have to take into consideration the people who do not play Theater of Mind, they need maps and want to play with maps. It seems like the people that are playing virtual tabletop-wise and also with maps are being penalized. So, a quick fix would be just to, like I said, do what you did in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Give us 10 pages of all of the maps with the player maps. You could easily do that. That would, that would solve one issue that you had between Tyranny of Dragons and Princes of Apocalypse. And this will probably happen for Out of the Abyss when it comes out in a couple of weeks as well. So this is the way that they're probably going to go with 5e. But like I said, think about it. The choice is up to you. You can still get this for about $35 on Amazon or eBay. Like I said, book's nice. The art is beautiful. The art is amazing. Lots of new art. Lots of monster art, NPC art, location art. The maps are really nicely well. It's just that they're not gauged up. Especially the Red Larch surrounding the Desserin Valley, just not accurate. And it makes the players wonder, why is this not, why are we, I thought this was a few miles from town or whatnot, and you have to adjust the adventure. So, but anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Like I said, I'm not bashing this. I'm just being critical. Dungeons and Dragons is the face of tabletop games. I expect high quality from Dungeons and Dragons. They're not producing a lot of stuff in-house anymore. Maybe that's something that they need to think about. So, like I said, been playing since '84. I love D&D. I love Wizards of the Coast. I wish them nothing but the best. But think about the Princes of Apocalypse, guys. Anyways, please feel free to leave a comment down below, guys. Like the channel, subscribe to the channel, and I appreciate it. And next time, I'll have a review out for Out of the Abyss in several months. And we'll see how Green Ronin Games does. I really am a big fan of Green Ronin Games and Chris Pramas, and I have confidence that Out of the Abyss will probably be the best campaign setting so far. I'm hoping. So anyways, until next time, guys, have a good one.